I know I have a good game when I have to spend the first 15 minutes playing it, trying to figure out if my copy is broken. Did somebody write some kind of bad hack to my copy? Something that I've actually encountered on this project. Nope, turns out it was actually how the game was supposed to be. Topple Zip was originally a computer game, which isn't really a surprise considering it's by computer game developer BothTech. Although a major player in computers, BothTech only published 3 console games, all on the Disk System, and we've already seen their first game for the Disk System, Relics. So that was a bit of a warning sign for Topple Zip. Topple Zip is described as a racing adventure game, or at least that's what the packaging says. Personally, I don't see any racing at all here. This isn't a case where it was dropped between the computer versions and the Famicom Disk System versions. The differences between those are relatively minor. My best guess is that it's more of a dodging game, similar to Zippy Race, and that's where they got the title from. But except for the fact that you have to get out of the way of things, it really doesn't play a lot like those games. This is clearly a shoot-'em-up with some adventure elements. In fact, it's very similar to Super Xevious and Super Star Force, though it's also much shorter, at least once you know what's going on. The goal of the game is that you're trying to win an airplane race. Yes, no one looks like airplanes, and no one is racing. And even at the ending, it doesn't really look like you're at a podium, and none of the adventure elements tie back to racing. But that is literally all of the story that you get. Topple Zip plays out across 8 areas, and these loop endlessly, taking about 20 seconds to complete a loop. You can make it scroll faster or slower by moving to the vertical edges of the screen. The 8 areas are linked through gates, so flying through one of those gates will take you to another zone. That's all simple enough, right? Okay, here's the entire path you follow to complete Topple Zip. Step 1, get to Area 5. You can do that by warping to Area 3, then Area 4, and 5. Step 2, earn 10,000 points. We'll come back to that in a minute. Step 3, pay 10,000 points to rescue this guy. Step 4, return to Area 3 and visit a shop there to get the only permanent upgrade in the game. Step 5, using that upgrade, access Area 7. To do this, you have to go back through Areas 4 and 5, and now the path to Area 6 and then 7 will be open. Step 6, go to a shop in Area 7 and get a key. Step 7, return to Area 2 by backtracking through those warp gates. And finally, Step 8, use the key to enter the warp gate to Area 8, and then complete the game by guessing which one of 6 locations, randomly picked, is the finish line. That is literally the entire game. I just gave you a walkthrough for it. Now, I only got about halfway through that while I was playing, and that's because there are a couple of annoying complications. But these complications are things that slow you down and make you repeat portions of the game over and over again, not things that are challenging to do. So how do you play this thing? Well, as you're flying around, hitting the A button will shoot, and hitting the B button will dive toward the ground. The dive move is used to enter things like the warp gates and shops, but the elevation isn't always at the ground or maximum height. For things like these square warp gates, you have to be transitioning between those heights in order to pass through them. Also, entering things is extremely precise, particularly when it comes to the elevation, and when you tap the B button, you dip down and pop right back up. So you're going to wind up missing the entrances a lot of times. And on later stages, those entrances are often a bit obfuscated, leading to you not really being sure if you missed the entrance or if there was nothing there. In the upper left, you have a fuel meter. This goes down anytime you're shot or collide with terrain or run into another ship. It goes down extremely slowly. So slowly that you'd pretty much have to be ramming things intentionally to watch it go down. If it runs out, then the next hit that you take will cause your ship to crash. You only have 1 life here, but continuing puts you back at the start of the area that you're in with 0 points. You recover fuel by flying into shops you'll find throughout the game, and here you'll pay 2,000 points to get 1 block of fuel. You can also pay 300 for a hint, and if you hit start at these locations, you can save your game. Saving your progress saves everything. The location, how many points you have, all of your power-ups including your temporary ones, everything. Power-ups are found in the little capsules that you'll find lying around. These capsules also get dropped by enemies, and yourself. If you shoot an enemy aircraft to stun it, and then ram it with your own ship, it'll drop a capsule. And the same thing works with you to make you drop some power-ups. In the Disk System version of Topple Zip, you can only have one weapon power-up at a time, and collecting any other ones makes your current one go away. Collecting any power-up will get you points, and that is the primary way to increase your score. There are 2 items that improve your ship's maneuverability. The jars with the upward arrow are supposed to improve its speed, but there's only a couple of levels of that, so once you've collected a few, you won't notice any difference. And the top speed based on that is really slow. The other is a small ship that once you pick it up, you can swiftly move side to side. This is an item that has to drop from an enemy. There's also this item that gives you a bumper to prevent you from getting rammed from behind, and this microphone that will make you shout out phrases that don't really help. In terms of weapons, there's a 3-way shot, a homing shot, an explosive missile, balls that fly around your ship and intercept things, and mines that you can drop and which will continue scrolling forward at the same rate as the screen does. There are also a few harmful items for you to avoid, bottles of poison, and bombs that have a minus sign on them. They'll both stun you and cost you points. The most important item to find is the radar, because it will tell you what the destinations for all of the gates in your area are. These change every time you start playing, but they remain consistent for that play session. So if you warp from stage 1 to stage 2, and then accidentally warp back to stage 1, well, that same gate will take you to stage 2. The radar that you pick up as a drop from enemies is temporary, lasting only until the end of your current area, but the item you pick up after you rescue the ship gives you a permanent radar. And this is yet another one of those games that people in Japan just don't think about at all. The computer versions of Topple Zip are better known than the Famicom Disk System version, and the computer versions are practically unknown. I just couldn't find anybody with anything to say on this game at all. And presumably that's because this one is really forgettable. The way that you can just ram through terrain and it really doesn't stop you doesn't help with this one. That's one of the things that makes the action in this game feel completely without consequence. Neither you nor your opponents can really affect each other. Well, except on a few of the later stages where you can actually shoot things down. But usually it's you getting stunned for a little while, or you've got your opponent stunned for a little while, and you just cycle like that endlessly. There isn't enough to do in Topple Zip. I broke down the entire path through this racing adventure, and I was generously padding the step count. Maybe the best thing about this game are the ship designs with the large sprites. Of course, those large sprites mean that there's very few things on the screen at any given moment. Topple Zip is just mediocre. There really isn't anything here to hold anyone's interest.